Alright, so in older versions of Illustrator, and even now still in this one, there was a way for chopping up your assets to export out for the web, and it was called slicing content. I'm just telling you about this briefly because I have a whole video on it using this slice tool. This does not cut your artwork, it just divides up your artboard. So if I go like this, it breaks the artboard up into pieces that can then be in Save for Web Legacy, exported out as pieces if you wish. You can see the individual slices are here, export all slices. So there's a whole video on this that you can refer to. I have put it as a subsection underneath the chapter page here in the module, and it's something that if you're using older versions, or if you're using perhaps Fireworks, Dreamweaver, that kind of thing where you need to be able to have slices, it is available there for you. A newer version of this is to export for screens, and there's ways to chop up the artwork in there. So if we say export for screens, you can see there's an option here for assets where you can actually chop your assets up into little pieces off of your artwork. We're going to do that a little bit later. Right now we're just looking at an individual artboard here. You can see that the artboard is showing we only have one artboard in this. That's all that we've got. Down here we could have small thumbnails if we had lots of artboards or lots of assets. We have all selected. Doesn't really matter in this case because this is the only thing that's on this document, but we could have multiple artboards in which we might want to select a range and pick some of them. For instance, I might have just made an artboard on here in the little pieces here, or I may have made individual artboards next to it that could be exported out as individual items. I need to have a place to export this to, so our path here is into the lesson 15 folder. Of course, you would put it wherever you wanted to save your items, and just be sure that if you're doing multiple ones, you might get lots of them in here, so you're probably going to want to look for a folder versus just dumping this on your desktop or wherever you might drop it. So I'm choosing that. Open location after export, always great, so you can find your folder quickly. They have us here. It actually started out as a ping, but I was looking at this already, so you can add a scale if you want to. This is the default that comes up. The book would like me to choose a JPEG 80, which is a little bit lower quality JPEG than 100%. It's 80%, but it's still good quality. You can usually go down to about 60 before you really start seeing drop off in the quality of a JPEG. Their defaults here don't have a 60, so 80 is a good choice. Also, they do have advanced options if you would like to pick some other things and compression methods and whatnot for your stuff. And also here they have options for adding iOS device presets and Android device presets. And you'll see here as I do this that it gets different suffixes added on to the end of it, so that it can be determined what the names are going to be, so that when you are looking in your folder, you'll be able to find these things. I'm going to cancel that because I don't want that to happen right now. We're just going to do the one. So export for screens, JPEG 80. The suffix is going to be an 80 on my name, which is just going to be artboard at this point. We don't have a prefix, so we could put that in there as well. And then I'm going to say export. And I had already tested this, so it wants me to replace it, sure. And you'll see that it popped it open for us, and there is the artboard 1-80. And then, again, that's the only one we did. If we had done multiple ones, they would all be stacked in this folder. Alright, so I'm going to switch back over here now. That's the basics of it. But if I was making just one artboard export, I could have just done that again with Save for Web, or even just with export as. I could have picked JPEG as well for that, right? So the other fun thing here is the exporting of individual assets and having those be put onto my screen. Now, the way that we would go about this is, and if you forget this, you can actually go into export for screens, and switch over to assets, and there's nothing here, so it tells you, hey, you need to be using the asset panel if you want to be doing this. So it actually canceled out of that and opened the asset panel for us. If you're looking for the asset panel, this slice tool here. You can also go to File, Window, Asset, Export, and it will pop open there as well. The first couple times I popped this open, it had a Help menu on it. It seems the help has gone away now that I have clicked on it too many times. What is this? Oh, that's the dialog box for that. Let me see if I can get that thing to come back. I'm kind of sad that I ruined it now. I've done this too many times. File. Let's try a new one. Just really quickly create. Now I'd have to shut out of it. Anyway, the little box came up here initially, and it might come up for you because this is a newer item in the world of Illustrator, and it has a little place where you could go and you could access more information for this on the web. Kind of those little movement boxes like it does for the screens. I mean, for the shaper tool for you guys. And when you clicked on it, it opened up a page which is called Collect Assets and Export in Batches. And it shows you all the different file sizes and some typical sizes for things, meanings of things, helping you understand some of the exporting that you can do. So if you guys do not have the book, or if you want to know more about some of these items, you can come to this page, and I will put it in the module page as well, so that you have a link to it there. Kind of just does an overview for you of what the asset panel can do for you. So that is that, and I'm going to go over a little bit of that here as well. So we've got our asset panel open, and we're going to drag some assets over. So it wants me to drag the pluralist logo, which is up here. Let me see if I can get in here and zoom in on this a bit. You can see that it's kind of got a lot of pieces to it. But if I click on this logo and I drag it over, it says Asset 1. I click on it, and that is my first asset with the plus sign, so that meant that I was adding in there. It is tied to the original artwork in the document, so if I update this artwork, then this asset will change. I don't have to worry about going in and dragging it back in there over and over again. It is linked to that. All right. And then I guess the other question is, can I rename this? Format settings. Yeah, I'm just looking here real quick. Double click on it. Yep. So I can change this to say something else. Pluralist logo. So now I can see what it's called in case this wasn't showing for some reason, or if I had a list going on because there were so many, I would be able to see what its name was. All right. I could just leave it called Asset 1 if I want to, but if you get things that look similar and are tiny, it might be better to be labeling them for yourself. All right. So in the export area here, we've got these different options. The default here is this ping. Export settings can close and open. You can add the selected artwork to this panel. Oh, so if I have selected artwork, I don't have to drag it. I could just add it here. I can show how many are selected, total export. I can open the export for screens. What do you have here? List view. Oh, there's a list view, so that makes it tinier with the name. That's nice. Format settings. We can pick different kinds of settings. Again, I showed you this briefly already. For each one. Open location after export, same thing as before, where we would open the folder where we were exporting these to. So in this area here, instead of having a ping, we're going to choose SVG. So that will make an SVG for us. SVGs are kind of replacing SWFs. Files that not everybody's using them, but somebody might ask for them, especially if you've got more animated work going on your web page. Again, it's just a web specific thing. If you're not doing web work, you probably do not need to export things as SVGs in general. They might also want to have different kinds. So again, I can have a ping as well. and I might want to make it be bigger or smaller. This pluralist logo is kind of small, so maybe I want to upsize it here. I can actually choose what resolution I want it to be. If I want to say, oh, I want it to be 300 pixels per inch, that kind of thing, because I know that I'm going to print it, for example, I could change that there. One size, you'll see here it switches back and forth. So one is 72. 4 size, if I go and check that resolution, that's 288, so we're getting close to a printing size there. So just be aware of that as well. All right, and then it will add those kind of things as well here. So if you want to have specific scales or suffixes on those, you can. Looks like for the SVG, it's not. Yeah, there is no option for suffix and scaling there. So we've done these 2 formats. I think that's good enough. I'm going to go click on the pluralist logo to make sure that it is selected up here. There could be multiple ones. Obviously, we want to make sure that whatever we click on highlight is what's going to be selected. And then we say export, and it's just coming right up to this export location. You see choose, and it's just exporting it. If I had wanted to have the information ahead of time, I can click there, and then it would bring up my export for screens where I could do some additional information possibly, but you can see here that it's basically the same stuff, so not necessary. All right, it was, I thought, supposed to open the export location, oops, which it did not. Delete that. Let me see here if I have it open. There we go. So you can see here we have pluralist logo SVG and pluralist logo at 2 times ping. So 2 times the original size. All right. Let's see. And so, so this is kind of the same basically as going up here and doing export for screens. So it's kind of up to you which one you want to be dealing with. This one is just for assets, so this one obviously if you want to do the whole thing, the artboards, you'd want to definitely come up here. But both work about the same. And again, they mention here that the Save for Web dialog box is there. And also as well. And then the just export as is available too. So if you just want to make a JPEG, just flat out, you can individually do those things, but they wouldn't. It's an individual one at a time kind of thing. So it's probably not as useful if you are trying to break up your assets. You'd be better off going in here and renaming things, saving them, etc. All right. So that's basically it for the asset export. And again, if you want to look up the slicing, there's another page on that. And the next video we'll be going into is creating CSS from your design. So this is a little bit more on the coding side, HTML side. Please do try to watch at least some of the video or check the notes. It will not be something that you have to work on for your project for the final, but it may have a question or something on the quiz. All right, and I will see you in the next video.